Hello, my name is Violet, and I'm here with my teammates and classmates Martha and Sarah. Today we will be representing the United Nations while explaining the ongoing conflict in the South China Sea over the Spratly Islands. This is an educational podcast, and we are in no way associated with the actual United Nations. We will be going over 4 discussion points throughout this podcast, explaining the conflict, why political boundaries cause and prevent the conflict, determining who is right and wrong, and what our next course of action and the future of the Spratly Islands will look like. So, firstly, let's explain some information necessary for understanding the situation. The Spratly Islands are a collection of islands, islets, cays, and more than 100 reefs residing off the coast of the Philippines, Malaysia, and southern Vietnam. Each of these countries has its own exclusive economic zone to which the country claims exclusive rights for fishing, drilling, and other economic activities. Exclusive Economic Zones, or EEZ, extend up to 200 nautical miles from the coast of each country. These zones were created by us, the United Nations. They were signed by all UN countries and set out in the United Nations Conventions on the Law of the Sea. In these waters, the nation has exclusive rights over all natural resources. This means everything from fishing to drilling and oil. The rest of the waters are international, so everyone is free to do what they want. Even nations without coastlines may fish here or deploy their navies at will. The EEZ's borderlines are frequently unresolvable. Furthermore, disputes can and do happen, especially when the waters are important for trade, maritime resources, and military planning. So what happens when disagreements occur? We have no direct role in enforcing the treaty regulations. We only provide a forum for different nations to meet and discuss their issues and occasionally attempt to render judgment in the Hague International Court. We have no active involvement in enforcing the treaty norms. Now, onto the conflict. As we've mentioned before, the Spratly Islands are a collection of islands located in the South China Sea. Its resources are divided among 5 countries: Vietnam, China, Taiwan, Malaysia, and the Philippines. China is the only country that does not recognize these 200-mile EEZs and argues that all the Spratly Islands fall within the 9-dash line, a border that they've drawn themselves, meaning they all belong to China. Because of that, they use many aggressive methods to stop anybody or ships from accessing the, quote, their area, unquote.
The United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea political boundaries exist to confirm the claim of each country about their rights on the 200 miles EEZ as creating the economic zone for exploring resources that only the country that owns it has access to. Now, borders help. However, we recognize they aren't perfect. For example, some of the conflicts in the South China Sea are about the EEZ borders. Some of the zones are overlapping. So many countries have to share the rich natural resources within these zones. It is inconvenient because the amount of resources consumed in each place is very different, such as Vietnam, Taiwan, and China, or Malaysia and the Philippines. The Southeast Asian countries all want to share those resources fairly, and it has been a challenge for them. Also, the international sea zone of the South China Sea that falls outside of a country's EEZ is another conflict that all the countries have to face. The question is, who controls this area? In this case, China is absolutely wrong. Even though all of their statements about the claim of the Spratly Island and their 9-dash line border are based on historical events, they still do not have the right to cause inconvenience for the other countries in the South China Sea by using aggressive methods and tactics. Vietnam, Malaysia, and the Philippines are right to fight for their benefit. After all, they are just following the rules set by us, the United Nations.
Since this has been a serious case for a long time, there are definitely some actions that could have been taken to prevent the worst situation. As we've mentioned, we have the LOS, also known as the Law of the Sea, to remind you. This is an international agreement establishing a legal framework for all the marine and maritime activities. When we face the issue of the Spratly Islands, the Convention on the Law of the Sea tries to protect countries' jurisdiction over offshore islands and their rights to marine resources. The best solution that we can do for now is to hold law courts between countries because we have a solid base of the law to get the chance to win. and we will not use force because provoking China might endanger others as well. And we do not want any more conflict. Minimizing China's aggressive action is the most appropriate thing to do for now. We aim to return the parts of the Spratly Islands to their legal owners. Also, we have to prevent China from intimidating other countries. As we try to persuade China to remove their military forces from other countries 200 miles EEZ, we can negotiate with them the small cluster of islands in the international sea zone. If China agrees with our negotiation, we can finally put an end to the hostile strategies that have been frightening other Southeast Asian countries and bring the Spratly Islands back to their rightful owners.
We hope that we found this educational, and thank you for listening.